Hey, church family. Today we're going to continue our conversations about endurance and hope. And today I wanted to look at the ABCs of endurance and hope. The book of Lamentations is a book that we probably overlook all too often. And I'm not trying to be cute when I say that I want to think about the ABCs of endurance and hope. It's actually a biblical concept, because what Jeremiah does in the book of Lamentations, as he's reflecting on the destruction of Jerusalem, is he catalogs his hurt through an acrostic poem. He literally uses the successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet to go through and catalog his hurt. Now, if you're like me, when you are hurt or you're going through hardship, you're experiencing some form of grief, sometimes you don't feel like you have any tracks to run on. Your grief feels all-encompassing and chaotic, right? Well, there's some implicit wisdom in what Jeremiah does, because he takes the time, in essence, to leave no stone unturned. He catalogs his grief through these successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. To put it in English terms, he even uses the word X to catalog his grief. But also, there's some implicit wisdom there, because you always get to Z, right? At the end of each one of these poems, each chapter, he comes to the last letter. And implicit within that reminds us of the fact that our grief is one day going to end. But we need to think about, when we're thinking about endurance and hope, and we see these two words in this passage we're going to look at today, when we think about the ABCs of endurance and hope, we're taught here in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3. Now again, Jeremiah was grieving the fall of Jerusalem. I can't imagine the things that he had seen. We have plenty of hardship in our lives right now. It could be the fact that we're just experiencing the pandemic and the loss of being able to be as free as we once were, go the places that we wanted to go when we want to go there. Maybe we're sad because we're not able to see people, or maybe some of us lost jobs. Maybe some of us have lost loved ones and health in the midst of this. Maybe some of us have lost jobs and the economic fallout that's been present. Maybe you're grieving the situation socially and racially across America right now. We have plenty to grieve over. But how do we endure and how do we hope in the midst of that? Well, there are ABCs to it. Listen to verses 16 and following of Lamentations 3. Jeremiah writes, "God has made my teeth grind on gravel and made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace, and I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say, my endurance has perished, and so has my hope from the Lord." There are those two words. "Remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it, and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him." What are the ABCs of endurance and hope? A, admit that you're hurt. That's what Jeremiah does in verses 16 to 20. He admits his hurt. He gives the image of feeling like he's chewing on gravel, right? He's forgotten what happiness is. Maybe that describes some of us right now in these days. But he admits that to God, and he probably admitted it to others. Church, please don't suffer in silence in these days. If you need someone to grieve with, let's grieve together. Let's mourn with those who mourn. Let's admit our hurt. B, brace your heart. That's what Jeremiah does in verses 21 through 23. He doesn't just remember his difficulty. He doesn't just admit that he's hurt, but he braces his heart. He reminds himself of the truth about God. This is what Martin Lloyd-Jones described as talking to ourselves, not just listening to ourselves. I remember when I was struggling with depression a number of years ago, that this was one of the things that I had to learn how to do. And I don't always do it perfectly. But I have to learn how to talk to myself, not just listen to myself. You know probably what I'm talking about or what I'm describing in the midst of this, that those voices just start going in our minds and we just listen and we get caught listening to ourselves rather than talking to ourselves. And so Jeremiah says, I had to call to mind this. And this brought hope back. What was it? What was it that he called to mind? The steadfast love of the Lord. Who God was and what he's done. And if you don't feel like you have the capacity to talk to yourself right now, again, reach out. Reach out to someone so that they can speak truth to you in the midst of these days, because we need to brace our hearts. So admit our hurt, brace our hearts, and then finally cling to God. That's verse 24. Did you notice how Jeremiah moved from verse 18? He says, my endurance has perished, and so has my hope from the Lord, to verse 24, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will hope in him. Moving from finding hope from the Lord to hoping in the Lord. Now here's what I think's going on there. Jeremiah, like all of us, has to learn the difference between hoping in the Lord for his gifts and hoping in the Lord for his person. Or to say it differently, hoping in the Lord because of his presence, CE, and not just hoping in the Lord because of his presence, TS. We need to hope in God's dwelling with us, not just his giving to us. We seek God for who he is, not just for what he gives. We seek God for his face, not just for his hand. We have to cling to God because he is our hope. Remember, like we looked at a few weeks ago in Romans 15, he is the God of endurance. He is the God of hope. Why can we endure? Why can we hope? Because of him. He is the one that we cling to. So we admit our hurt. We catalog it just like Jeremiah did. We brace our hearts with the truth about God, and we cling to him because he is the one who enables us to continue hoping and enduring. Those are the ABCs of endurance and hope from the book of Lamentations, verses 16 to 24. Church, I look forward to seeing many of you on Saturday at 4:30 at Gordon Conwell. Hope many of you are able to come. We love you guys, we miss you guys, and we're praying for you. Take care.